Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the last holiday edition of the Erin Molan Show. I'll be back in studio for you next week. I was about to say fully professional, but that's not really me. So back to being semi-professional for you. But of course, so much happening that I didn't want to take a break from you guys. So please forgive the less than professional background. But let's go through what's been happening. And President Donald Trump was just about to board his aircraft to go and speak to the big meeting of generals. In fact, every general, every admiral, every air marshal in the United States Defense Force, alongside Defense Secretary, War Secretary Pete Hegseth. And he said this to the waiting media who asked him about the hostage deal and how long he thought Hamas would take to come back with an answer. Well, essentially how much time he's giving Hamas. So take a listen.
How long do you plan to give Hamas to respond to the ceasefire proposal you put out?
Well, we're going to do about 3 or 4 days. We'll see how it is. All of the Arab countries are signed up. The Muslim countries are all signed up. Israel's all signed up. We're just waiting for Hamas. And Hamas is either going to be doing it or not. And if it's not, it's going to be a very sad end.
He also gave some insight into the nature of this meeting. Now, really fascinating. First time in history that every single leader in the United States military has been brought together in one place. And this is a little bit daunting initially. People were a little bit worried about what was going on because nothing public was said regarding why they were being brought together. And at significant cost, these generals and these leaders are positioned around the world in various roles and in various positions. So to bring them all together is a big deal, very costly. Donald Trump spoke about the fact that what he wants to do is build spirit. Now, Pete Hegseth had a very different definition of that when he spoke. I'll bring you that in a second because it's hilarious if we're being completely frank. But Donald Trump said this.
Why gather all the generals in one place for a speech?
Well, this is only an esprit de corps. You know what esprit de corps is? This is only a spirit. We're going to be talking to him. Pete Hegseth is talking right now. I'm going to have to leave because I have to talk to him. But these are our generals, our admirals, our leaders. And it's a good thing. A thing like this has never been done before because they came from all over the world. And there's a little bit of expense, not much, but there's a little expense to that. We don't like to waste it. We'd rather spend it on bullets and rockets, frankly. But this was the one time we had to do a great spiritizing. It's going to be great.
Now, when he got there, he got up on stage and essentially told this group of leaders that if they didn't like what he was saying, they could leave, but that would be very bad for their future. No one else says it like him. Have a listen.
And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
Earlier, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth addressed the generals, and it was fascinating because he wasn't messing around. He essentially fat-shamed them. He said, we don't want to see overweight generals, just like we don't want to see overweight troops. It's a bad look, and not necessarily just from an aesthetic perspective. How do you respect the lethality of an organization if the individuals within that organization are not fit? They're fighters. Lethality is the priority, not DEI or anything else. The only way you prevent wars, the only way you save lives, is having a fierce capability to undertake one and to carry one out. And not just the capability, but the willingness too. And he said that very, very clearly. And this is all Donald Trump's directive. This is why he brought Hegseth in, to completely overhaul this organization. But have a listen to a few of the remarks that Hegseth made to this big group of leaders. And keep in mind as well, the really interesting part of this is that all these generals are, probably a lot of them, maybe not twice his age, but significantly older than he is, significantly higher ranking, significantly more experienced. I'd say there'd be a fair bit of animosity from some within the military directed towards Hegseth, and he would know that, absolutely. But he wasn't kind of cowering, nor was he tiptoeing around any of the issues. In fact, it feels like he went harder. Have a watch.
If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops, Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our Joint Force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already.
I love this. This is the kind of stuff that matters. This is the kind of attitude that prevents war. The complete opposite to the kind of attitude held by the likes of Biden, who was weak as an Australian saying. You can Google if you like. But this is the kind of leadership not just America needs right now, but the world needs right now. Very recently, I had a couple of fascinating chats about Iran, about the Middle East, and about the absolute fake propaganda that gets pushed out into the world as though it is fact. This stuff matters deeply. I'll see you straight afterwards. Jonathan, first of all, congratulations on the new book, and thank you so much for joining me on the Erin Molan Show.
Thanks so much for having me, Erin. Great to be with you.
Talk to me, first of all, about this book and what it exposes inside of Iran, and in particular, the illegally in place regime who took over without any element of democracy in sight.
If you Google Iran or the Islamic Republic today, you're likely going to read news items about the Islamic Republic's dangerous and expensive nuclear weapons program, its outrageous foreign proxy network, its foreign policy. What you won't read about are the people of Iran, who they are, what their aspirations are, what these 90+ million people want, whether they share views with the Islamic Republic. And the thing that I found in the 3 years of writing this book, Unveiled Inside Iran's Women Life Freedom Revolt, is that the gulf between the people of Iran and the Islamic Republic of Iran is extremely wide, and not enough people know about it. So very much the motivation behind writing this book was to illustrate how extraordinary, courageous, resilient, and amazing the people of Iran are, and how resilient they've been in their 46-year quest for freedom.
How difficult was it to get people to speak? Because as we know, particularly those who live in Iran, it can be punished by death.
There are a lot of consequences for doing many things inside Iran. Least of all, speaking to, at the time I was a journalist from the West. Speaking to someone from the West comes with consequences, and I spoke to the people. Some of the people I spoke to didn't want their identity revealed. They wanted to use a pseudonym. But some people who had in the past spoken out and extremely brave and courageous and knew the risks involved, were very happy to speak to me, and because they know that it could potentially lead to an improvement in their lives and in the lives of millions and millions of people who've risen up, not just at 2022, 2023 after the killing of Mahsa Amini, but have risen up time and time again. And these people rise, and they know that their protests, their form of insurrection comes with severe consequences, but they still do it nonetheless.
What do the people of Iran want?
I think at a very basic level, they want freedom. They want the freedom to be able to choose what they do, where they work, what they wear, what kind of relationship they have with the outside world. And these are freedoms that they just don't have. So you'll see some people who took part in the Women Life Freedom protest movement who wanted to continue to cover their hair. But the key point is that they wanted the choice. And that choice has been taken away from them since the very founding of the Islamic Republic. The Islamic Republic was formalized in sort of February 1979. And almost immediately, the Supreme Leader, the founding father of the Islamic Republic, the revolution, waged war on women. They were one of the first victims and targets of this movement. And what you saw immediately after, by March 1979, March 8th, International Women's Day, you saw hundreds of thousands of women storm the streets because and chant that this was not the revolution that they signed up for, that they wanted. And they've been fighting ever since then. What we saw happen in 2022, 2023 was very much a sort of continuation of this multi-decade war and sort of battle against the Islamic Republic.
Israel weakened that regime significantly, then assisted by the US, who came in the recent war. There are those who say that we are as close as we have been ever to the potential of overturn of this regime, this terrorist regime. Do you believe that we are still close? Has that window now passed? Was not enough done to weaken the regime? What do you think?
I don't think the window has passed. I think you're absolutely right, Erin, that the Islamic Republic was significantly weakened militarily by Israel in Operation Rising Lion and subsequently the United States in Operation Midnight Hammer. But I think real change will absolutely and only come from within. And while the domestic situation inside Iran is extremely dire, the people are going to continue to rise up. And since the 12-day war, there's been a catastrophic water crisis, environmental crisis, gas and electricity shortages, and these are the very issues that will really bring the people out to the streets, because you're no longer talking about politics or ideology. You're talking about people's very existence, their survival. And when you have Lake Urmia, which is one of the Middle East's biggest lakes, almost vanishing, and when you have the country's president Masoud Pezeshkian warn that Tehran, a megacity of 9 to 10 million people, could run out of water within weeks, and people are struggling every single day, that's when you see a real uprising, and that's when you, combined with all of the political and ideological unrest, that's when I think that the regime is going to be at its most vulnerable.
And I think further solidifying that argument is the message that Prime Minister Netanyahu sent to the people of Iran post that 12-day war, which was, our war is not with you, our water technology. He spent a lot of time during that message to them talking about the technology that Israel has, and that if the people were to uprise, they would go in immediately and help with recycling of water and providing clean water and that kind of thing. I want to ask you now about your other existence, not just as an author and journalist, but spokesperson for the UN. Explain to me how that role works, and anything to do with the United Nations, particularly if you come from a rational, common sense perspective, or from Israel. I mean, they must be paying you $8 billion a day, because that's what you would need to put up with the rubbish that they dish out.
I can confirm that's not the salary, Erin.
Okay, I withdraw my application, then I had to put one in.
But it's definitely an uphill battle, and there's no shortage of hostility that we face there, and we're on the precipice of a very busy end of September with high-level week that's going to be preceded by another two-state solution convened by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and France, which is a continuation of the New York Declaration. And unfortunately, you're going to have this amazing, rare opportunity of all the countries' leaders, shot callers, decision makers coming into one place. Ideally, the idea would be for all of them to talk about the world's most pressing issues, solve all of the world's problems. But unfortunately, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be making these declarations, these meaningless declarations that have no action attached to it. For example, one of the New York Declaration stated that they support a Hamas-free Palestine or a Hamas-free Gaza. There's no plan as to how you bring about a Hamas-free Palestine or Hamas-free Gaza, and which means that Israel is the one, even though they don't like to say it, the signatories, is Israel's the one that actually has to do the work, actually has to dismantle this terrorist regime that Israel has said it's been doing, one of the reasons for this war, and instead these member states don't want to help bring about,
No.
figure out a plan to destroy this terrorist organization and bring home the hostages. Instead, you've got these empty statements taking up the podium, taking up important, valuable time, and it's unfortunately going to end up being another one of those circuses or charades, as opposed to, bringing about real meaningful change.
And as Mark Rubio said, he's in Israel at the moment when he makes the point that all of these, ridiculous statements from countries that, will make absolutely no difference except to embolden Hamas. So yes, they can say that, we want a Hamas-free Gaza. Well, then why have you run a protection racket for them for 2 years? Why have you, refused to hold them responsible for the entirety of the situation? Anyway, I'm preaching to the converted with you, absolutely. Tell my viewers and my listeners how they can get your book.
The book is available for pre-order now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, all other major retailers, wherever you are in the world, and it comes out on September 25th, which coincides with the 3-year anniversary of Mahsa Amini's death and the Women Life Freedom movement. So it's if you want to learn more about the people of Iran and not just the Islamic Republic, I highly recommend picking up a copy.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, I watch with not interest, it's not a strong enough word, but I pray daily for the people of Iran to have their opportunity to rise up and to have what is rightly theirs, their own country, their own nation. Thank you so very much, Jonathan. Really appreciate your time and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Erin. Really appreciate it.
Younes, thank you so much for joining me here on the Erin Molan Show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I went on your Instagram page and I saw you interviewed Eric Trump and some other prominent figures. It's very funny because Donald Trump is coming to the UK today, or he was in the UK yesterday. He's going to have his whole ceremony today in Windsor Castle. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. It's exciting times in the UK at the moment. And the reason I wanted to get you on initially, mind you, I want to talk to you about Iran as well, because things are starting to heat up there a little bit. But to the UK first. Freedom of speech and this rally that Tommy Robinson organised and held. Of course, the mainstream media said, 10 people. It was millions. Is there significant evidence that a shift is occurring? Are the people of the UK actually starting to say we've had enough?
Yeah, first of all, BBC is fake news, and so is Sky News, because I was there personally. And I go to a lot of demonstrations, and there was easily 1 million people there. Like, that was the biggest demonstration I've ever seen, and I've actually been to a few of them. In terms of people waking up, I think, people have always been woken up, but I think the silent majority now has the courage to speak, whereas before the silent majority didn't have the courage to speak. And I think people like myself, people like Tommy, people like you, or just people in the media in general, the independent media, has given people the courage because people don't think they're insane anymore. They don't think they're racist anymore for thinking these things.
It's such a good point you make. And when I say people waking up, you're so right in that for the vast majority of them, they are completely aware. They're gaslit. People try and gaslit them, but they are completely aware of what is at risk and what is occurring. But it's that fear of being labelled racist, a bigot, Islamophobic, the entire thing. Do you think that the vileness of those slurs is wearing off? People aren't afraid anymore of being called that because they see it for what it is, a weaponization.
Exactly, and it doesn't work anymore because it's been overused, When you overuse a word like racist or sexist or xenophobic or Islamophobic, you actually, look, because there are some racist people in society, okay? We cannot deny that. There's like maybe 10%, maximum 20%. However, just to, paint everyone with that broad brush of saying, everyone that's in the rally is a racist, or that everyone that disagrees with the mainstream narrative is a far-right thug. You're basically gaslighting people and you're lying to people. And, Sadiq Khan, which is probably the worst mayor that we've ever had in this country, the day after the protests, or the demonstration, I should say, he releases a letter saying, we don't stand by those that seek to divide us. And I was thinking, it's you that's seeking to divide us. Not Tommy Robinson.
Chief divider.
Yes, it's you. Exactly. He's projecting. It's projection at its finest. Because Sadiq Khan He's been the terrible mayor. And every time people criticize him, he hides behind the Islamophobia excuse. The same with Keir Starmer. And I think Keir Starmer is an absolute stooge. I don't think he has any charisma. He's just a yes man. He's a World Economic Forum puppet. And
In
he came
Australia,
and
we
echoed
would
that
say
sentiment.
weak as piss is how we would describe someone like Keir Starmer.
Exactly.
He is
It's embarrassing.
someone
It's
that
actually embarrassing.
joins the likes of Carney in Canada, of Macron, that seem to just go weak at the knees when it comes to these, the Islamic regime in Iran, terrorist regimes, people who wish us harm.
Yeah.
Why are they so weak in the face of what is so clear to you and I are the enemy?
They say weak men create hard times create strong men create good times, and good times create weak men. And we are going through that weak men phase with Macron, with Keir Starmer. Hopefully Trump is back in office, because if it was Kamala Harris or if Biden, it would have been a disaster. But look, the thing is, I think there's a mainstream narrative here and there's a globalist narrative here. And these politicians like Macron, like Keir Starmer, they don't believe any of the things that they say. They just kind of jump on the bandwagon of what their overlords or what their donors tell them to do. And they come and echo those sentiments back. But their power and the mainstream narrative, the mainstream media's power, because of people like you, the independent media, has exposed them. So they are on a, sort of a downward trajectory, because people are wise to them now. People see through their lives, especially after what happened with COVID and Trump, and how the media just lied over and over and over again. People are just wise to that now. So I think it's much harder for people to be brainwashed. And I think that era of Macron's, of Starmer's, of the weak sort of pantomime politician is over.
I really hope so. I love what you just said there, and you talk that I'm going to write that down when we finish this. Your cycle, it is so brilliant. What I want to say is Milei famously said, the Argentinian leader, and this is a translation, but something to the effect of, when you finish in public life, in politics, most people will hate you anyway, so you might as well do what is right. And I was watching a clip from a podcast you have done recently where you said something very similar in regards to, if your number one desire in life is to be liked, then A, what a weak, awful existence that must be, and B, you will never do anything significant. You will never have purpose or contribute in any way. Your story is fascinating. You were born as a Muslim and raised as a Muslim. Tell me your story and why you decided that it wasn't for you.
Well, I was born in Iran, so automatically you are born into a Muslim family. I wouldn't say my parents were very strict. They were open-minded people, but they would call themselves a Muslim. And, they kind of prayed, like my grandparents were very devout Muslims. My parents weren't so much. So when I moved to this country when I was 13 years old, I saw the, sort of the disparities between Islam and Christianity. And I really started to question Islam and Christianity and all the religions. So I started doing some deep research into religion. And I realized that, in my opinion, all religions are man-made. I believe in God. I think God is an energy and a frequency and a vibration. God is real. You're a drop in the ocean. You're not ocean in a drop, because I think we are a part of God. God is not something external. But that to one side. When I've done the deep research into Islam, I realized that it's an extremely barbaric religion, and it needs to go through its own age of Renaissance and its own age of enlightenment. Because look, every religion, including Judaism and including Christianity, have done a lot of wrong in history. And if you don't believe me, go and read about what happened in the Dark Ages with Christianity, and also what happened, before Christianity came in Judaism. So, but Islam, because it's the newest out of the three, it still hasn't gone through its own age of enlightenment and its own age of Renaissance. And it's going through it now, actually. And it can only go through it when people start questioning it and when people start criticizing it. The problem with Islam is that Islam is an extremely militant religion. There's a lot of calls to actions in Islam. And, your punishment in Islam is death if you question Islam or Muhammad, or if you decide to leave. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And I always thought this. I speak about everything. Look, I speak about politics, all kinds of different issues. And one thing I notice is that no one has the courage to criticize Islam. And I thought, why is that? And I thought, well, if you criticize it, look at what happened to Charlie Hebdo. Look at what happened to Salman Rushdie. Look at what happens to all the people in Islamic countries that criticize Islam. They're dead. So that's why they use fear as a mechanism to stop freedom of speech in Islam. And I always say this, like, people that try to stop you from questioning them, they're the ones lying.
Absolutely. That's it. If you believe genuinely in what you stand for, then being challenged or being questioned should not scare you. Should not at all. It's so interesting because I look at...
You're welcome, it's actually.
Yes, like I was born and raised Catholic, and there was a period in my life when I moved away from the Catholic Church. I have a little brother who's gay, and the way that the Catholic Church had treated people like him made me very uncomfortable. And I spoke publicly at the time and said, I was meant to get married in a Catholic church, but I decided not to. And that was just, I was critical of the way I thought the church could be a force for good here, for really good people who believe in God, but instead they went the other way. Not one person ever said or would have even thought that I was Catholophobic or I would, it doesn't exist in any other space. People would have said, oh, she's got an issue that she feels strongly about, so she's criticizing an element of a religion. But you're right, with Islam, it's just, it's almost saying the word makes people nervous. It used to make me, I grew up in a Muslim country in Indonesia, the world's largest Islamic population. I speak the language fluently. I was raised in part by devout Muslim women who were part of our housekeepers and our nannies at home who were just beautiful. And I was back in Jakarta end of last year, visiting them. I have so much love for the vast majority of peaceful Muslims, but Islamic extremism is a serious issue. But I wouldn't have said that a year ago, 2 years ago. I would have been too afraid that I would have been labelled.
Yeah, but also, you know what the problem is? Because I speak about Islam extensively, and, people speak to me about Islam extensively, and they ask me a lot of questions. So someone that doesn't quite know me, I might go on my page and they might think like I'm Islamophobic and I'm anti-Islam. And they always turn around and say to me, look, 95% of Muslims are peaceful people. Like, how could you say that about Islam? And I'm like, yes, look, 95% of Muslims are peaceful because they don't follow the scripture.
That's exactly
They pick and choose, they cherry pick. Who follows Islam to the core? ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Taliban. Those are the people. And if you don't believe me, go and read the Quran, go and look at the life of Muhammad, and go and read the Hadiths in your own language, not in Arabic, so you understand clearly what it says. So, and also another problem I have with the Muslim population, because of that fear that's instilled in you as a child, not to ever question Islam.
Yeah.
The moderate Muslims, they might be peaceful people, but for whatever reason, they are like the grass that's hiding the snake. So they become a camouflage for the extremists within them. And I think more and more and more Muslims need to come out and call out extremism, both in their own religions and both in their own communities.
I did a piece exactly on that maybe 3 months ago when I called on good Muslims around the world. Their silence, they are complicit in this by being silent. And I understand the fear that surrounds it. I understand all of that. But if more moderate Muslims would speak up against the extremism, because, I had high-level meetings in Jakarta, Indonesia, with people in very prominent positions who would say to me privately, we hate Islamic extremism more than you do. It hurts our people more than it hurts anyone else. And I say to them, say it publicly. That shouldn't be controversial. And they won't. And it would be so beneficial and so powerful if they came out against what is clearly an evil.
Exactly. And look, majority of the people in this world, for whatever reason, as you were talking about earlier, they just kind of want to blend in.
Yeah.
They don't really question things. They just, see what is the most popular opinion and jump on that bandwagon. Whereas the people that truly prosper and the people that truly change the world are the ones that question everything, and they are not sort of afraid to put their head above the parapet. So unfortunately, in the Islamic community, because of the fear that's instilled in you, no one dares to put their head above the parapet. And I think that's wrong, and I think that should change. And what I do with my page is try to inspire people to do the same.
Yeah. So you do that. Are you scared? I mean, what do you feel like what kind of price are you willing to pay for what you clearly believe very strongly in?
Well, look, no, I love what I do. Okay. And, when I started, and I speak about everything, I don't just speak about Islam. But a lot of people, especially within my family and my close friends, were worried for me. And they were like, look, Younes, like, is this really worth it? Or are you going to really put your life at risk? Because, look, I got death threats on social media, and I do get it still to this day after like 2 years. But I'm not scared at all, to be completely honest with you. I'm very aware. I am, I know what's always around me. I'm spatially aware. I do my due diligence, but I'm not scared at all. Like, I truly love what I do. I truly love opening people's minds, not just to do with Islam, but everything. I try to speak the truth as much as I can and do my own research, have critical thinking. And that's what I try to teach people. I'm not saying
Yeah.
come and agree with me 100%, but have
Yes.
critical thinking. Think for yourself. Don't just jump on the bandwagon. Don't just, go with something just because you were taught it as a kid or taught it as a, young adult. And that's the problem we have in society. Thinking is hard.
Yeah.
That's why people judge. That's why
easier.
people will just follow along. And, yeah, it's easy. And look, maybe majority of the people out there, they're not very political, or they don't really care. Deep down, they just want to make money and just
Yeah.
have a comfortable, easy life. I'm not like that. I'm not like that at all. I think
See?
one of the duties of you being on this earth is to make an impact. Yeah, you want to live a comfortable life and you want to experience everything and, have a family and all of that, make a lot of money. But the most important thing is, I think, self-actualization. And in my case, I think I'm here to educate people through media.
I feel like I've had this awakening in a way, and what you say is so true. The vast majority of people, and we have this saying, fat, dumb and happy, just want to live their lives peacefully, whatever is easy and nice, and I get that. The problem we face now in the UK, in Australia, in Europe, is that way of life is under threat. Even for those who just want to blend in, there will come a time when you can't actually afford to be silent and to not fight for it. And that's the issue. You and I can see that the risk, it's not a Hamas, Gaza, Israel issue. The ideology is a threat to all of us in every university, in every school, in every movement, everywhere around the world. Free speech is under threat. So your ability to live an easy life is under threat. And a lot of people don't see that yet.
No, 100%. I think I've done a quote on Instagram. I was looking for it now, but I've done like 8 quotes that would have been perfect for this podcast. But I think I'm just going to tell you the first one.
Please.
Plato said the price that the price that good men pay for not engaging in politics is that
this
they'll
on your
end
Instagram.
up being ruled by
Just
evil men.
before.
Exactly.
Say it again for me. Say it again for me.
Yeah,
I just saw
exactly.
it.
Do you want me to find it so I can read all 8?
Please.
The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men.
Yes.
Aristotle, courage is the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees the others.
Yes.
Socrates, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new.
Yes.
Marcus Aurelius, you have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Nietzsche, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how.
Yes, I love that.
Kierkegaard, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards.
Yes.
Voltaire, it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong.
Yes.
And
Isn't that
John
the truth?
Stuart Mill. Yeah, John Stuart Mill. Genuine justice requires liberty of thought, liberty of speech, and liberty of action.
Yes, I love that. That is so, so brilliant. Now, before I let you go, I need to ask you about Iran. I've seen reports today regarding people in the streets chanting death to the leader. We know that obviously Israel's strike on Iran, then with the Americans coming in, they say that the regime is at its weakest position ever, and this is the moment to strike. but I fear that that may not occur. What do
Yeah.
you think? Are we about to see your people take back what is rightfully theirs?
Yes, I really, really hope so. Look, there was a water crisis in Iran. There is a water
Yeah.
crisis in Iran. There is a energy crisis in Iran. And it's very unfortunate that one of the richest countries in the world, the Islamic Republic, is so incompetent, they can't even provide their own civilians with basic necessities. And people just don't have water, don't have power, and don't have electricity, don't have internet. Like, how can you be the fifth richest economy in the world and not be able to provide your own
Well,
civilians with these basic
I have an
necessities?
idea
That's
as to how that occurs. It's because you spend all your money on terrorism and killing innocent people. That would be maybe my guess as to why their people are suffering.
exactly 100%. That and incompetence. So it's a mixture
Yeah.
of both. They're both incompetent and terrorists at the same time. So, so basically, what I think is that I really hope, because look, I was quite disappointed with people not rising up in Iran during the 12-day war with Israel. But then again, if the government shoots you when you protest, then would you be so brave and go and protest? I don't think so. But then again, I just think Iranians need to rise up. This is the moment. Because look, at what point are you going to rise up? You don't have water. Like, how worse can things get? You don't have water. You don't have electricity. You don't have gas. Like, what are you waiting for? Because at the end root of this is death anyway. You're probably going to die at some point from hunger or from lack of water or from freezing to death because there's no gas. So you might as well come to the streets, be brave. If 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million people all across Iran get out into the streets and protest, and we have, international support and, maybe America helping us with taking out of Khamenei, there's every chance that the regime can be overthrown, and I stand 100% behind the Iranian people. I really hope they do it this time, because this is the moment. I thought the moment was when Trump hit the nuclear facilities, but it didn't quite happen then. But I think now people are just sick and tired of it, and maybe this time could be the last.
I hope so. I very much hope so. And I agree. I think the only significant change can come from within, but they need international support. They need the US or someone to be there backing them up and giving them a hand. But yeah, it's
Exactly.
unimaginable.
And one last thing I want to say is that
Please.
you need three different factors. You need internal uprising, international support, but also strong opposition that can form a temporary or a transitional government for 1 or 2 years. And I hope to be part of that transitional team. And then in 1 or 2 years' time, we can, have a referendum on what the people want. I think the people, the outside leaders, the change has to come from within. But the international support, it's not just America and Israel, it's the Iranian diaspora to sort of make a team of people, which Shahzad Reza Pahlavi has done to some extent, but in my opinion, he hasn't pushed it or promoted it far enough. So I hope he's more aggressive this time. And if he's not, I will be for him.
Do you believe he's the right man?
Look, he comes from I love his father and I love his grandfather and I love him. He's a very well-educated man. He's very nice man. But I just think sometimes he lacks the charisma and the boldness to be a leader. And that was kind of reflected on how he acted during the 12-day war. Like, I watched all his speeches. I just find them not inspiring at all. Like, how can you be in the middle of a war and come and read off a piece of paper? Like, come and show your passion to the people. Come and tell the people, you people of Iran, rise up. Mr. Donald Trump, please finish the job. I have a cabinet in mind. I will take over. Don't worry, there's not going to be the instability in Iran. That kind of things to give the confidence both to the people and to the American and the Israeli and the international sort of community that, Iran will be fine if the regime is overthrown. Because one of the reasons I think that Trump didn't finish the job is because he was afraid of the chaos that could ensue. And the only way to stop that is to have a viable, strong opposition ready to take over as soon as the Islamic Republic falls.
Are you in a position to offer an alternative to him for that role? Is that something you want?
Well, look, I'm only 31 years old, and I'm not going to make a narcissistic comment and say, look, I'm going to be the next king of Iran. However, I know what it takes to be a leader. And there's a book about this, wartime leader and peacetime leader. I think Shahzadeh Reza Pahlavi is a great peacetime leader. I don't see him as a wartime leader. Because a wartime leader needs to make difficult decisions and needs to take risk. And I think he's quite risk averse. But look, I am willing to help him. I support Shahzadeh Reza Pahlavi because I know at this moment in time, he's the best option we have. But maybe in the future, if Iran is freed, then I have no doubts that I'll throw my hat in the ring.
That is amazing. Thank you so, so much for your time, for your passion and everything that you fight for.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for your company. I hope you enjoyed something a little bit different. I'll be back in studio, back to regular programming next week. But thank you so much for your company over this little holiday period. Mind you, all I've done, in albeit a different environment, is obsess over the exact same things, which is bringing you up to date with all the latest. So thank you so very much for your company. Love you all, and I'll see you from back in Australia next week.